Storm Cellar. Ray, we had a guest today, but you were just filming in. What's going on with you? How are you? And then let us know what happened with our guest.
Well, I'm doing great, and I'm hanging in there. The problem is the weather in Calgary. It If you don't like the weather in Calgary, wait 5 minutes. It will change, and most assuredly, that's exactly what's kind of happened. And the nature of our guest's work required that he be called in immediately to work. And unfortunately, my friend LJ Camponi, not able to join us on this program as originally scheduled. However, LJ, and he's busted up about it. And I tried to assure him over and over again, there will always be a spot for you here in the Storm Cellar. There is. He's definitely excited to join us. So LJ will be back on another occasion.
Yeah, another
and we'll,
Calgary Caniac cannot be a bad thing.
no, it's not. It's funny. You always feel alone when you walk into the opposing team's barn and you're cheering for the Hurricanes here in Calgary. You feel like you're alone, but LJ is another really intelligent, smart, bright, great hockey fan, and he knows, where it's at, and where it's at is in Carolina. So he's another great, great Ganiac, and he will be joining us in the very near future. So looking forward to that, LJ. Don't sweat. Work safe, my friend. Work safe.
Bring
Now,
tacos.
there you go. I got to
The way
tell
to my
you,
heart
here we
is
go.
tacos.
Yeah, Brad, I'm feeling great. I'm doing well. Our Hurricanes are not. And the environment around the NHL is changing quickly, as is usually the case around this time of year because of the trade deadlines. So let's get into this. If I recall correctly, and you had mentioned that maybe I was off on this. We were talking before the program. This is the first time we are settling into a visit here in the Storm Cellar where the Hurricanes lost all three games that they were playing in between discussions. And this is where we find ourselves. Dropped to Pittsburgh Sunday, dropped on Thursday to the Leafs, which stung me in particular, and then dropping another one to Washington in overtime, which is and it's funny because that third game, the loss to Washington, even though we lost to Washington, the Hurricanes still extended a bit of a streak that they have going on. Points at home, games with points at home. They're up to 14 now, almost to their record, which is 15 straight games with points at home, which was done, oddly enough, in 2005, 2006. So there's some really good vibes going there, considering what happened in 2005, 2006. And oddly enough, the number 3 streak, the 12 straight home games, was in 2008, 2009, another where we made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Final. So we've got some good things to feel about here with these types of streaks at home. However, these were games that shouldn't have been lost. I look at the Leafs game, and anytime you get a chance to play the Leafs, who have a rookie goaltender, and they're playing without Auston Matthews because of his suspension, that has to be a win, doesn't it?
It really does. So real quickly, we're lucky. This is only the second time all season that the Hurricanes have lost 3 in a row.
Yeah.
They lost 3 in a row, November 6th, 9th, and 12th. Florida,
Ah,
Tampa Bay, and Philly. That's a long time ago.
that is a long time
Long time
ago.
ago. You're right. To lose to the Maple Leafs without Auston Matthews really is kind of a kick in the pants. And when I look at that game, what I keep coming back to is 0 for 3 on the power play.
Mm.
The Leafs got one power play. RPK did what they have done consistently all year and killed it. But 0 for 3 on the power. And it's weird because I keep looking at the stats, and these types of stats don't lie anyway. And the Hurricanes are still one of the best power play teams in the league. But every time I go back to look at a game, it's 0 for 3, it's 1 for 4, it's 0 for 2,
Hmm.
it's the Capital, 0 for 2 against the Capitals.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are we just scoring power play goals against lesser teams in bunches? Because that's the only way that the math seems to work. And I haven't really looked at it closely, but that the Maple Leafs game, I think you want to have back. Um, that
Yeah.
beautiful that beautiful shot, Ethan Bear, Vinny Trocheck gets on the board for that one. Um, to me, the Maple Leafs loss is a lot harder to take than the Capitals loss. And if you think about it, that 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 bad angle shot from the Capitals, that first goal,
Yeah.
that's just a fluke goal. That's a good hockey goal, right? Throw it to the net and see what happens.
Yeah.
But that goes in what? One time out of 20, one time out of 40.
One
I
time
mean,
out of 50, I think.
yeah,
Yeah, like honest.
that's just a fluke goal. Without that goal, the Hurricanes, take that tilt. So,
Well, and think about the empty net 30 seconds into the game. The
yeah,
puck goes off the stanchion that Nino blasted high and wide. And we'll talk more about Nino later about the Washington game because he missed that one point blank. And
mhm.
then he got into some other issues, and we'll talk about that later. The Leafs game, it's funny. I got the chirpers again because it was Anderson who took the loss. And there was this thought that, hey, maybe if the Leafs can square up with the Hurricanes, this is our key to making it into the second round because we've got Anderson's number.
Yeah, y'all keep
And
thinking that.
well, keep thinking it. I mean, I'm happy to go to bat and the line with Anderson because he's been great, but there was just not enough of everything in that game. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, the
Mhm.
young rookie goaltender who played shutout hockey, who wins his first game in a shutout against Dallas 2 nights previous, and then comes in and shuts the door on the Canes for another 2 straight periods. And I'm like, holy cow, what's going on here, guys? Like, let's get to work. And when you take a weapon like Austin Matthews, who right now a lot of people are arguing might be your Hart Trophy winner, and it's hard to argue. I mean, he's exceptionally talented. You've got a Toronto defense that is woefully bad. Like it's not a great defense that has been torching them all season long. They have just not been in sync. And it's a clear worry for the squad and their fans. The D is not strong enough. They want to make moves, get some shore up their, six amongst their 6D, and they still worry about their goaltending. Now, can we expect Colgren? I'm sure I'm mispronouncing his name. Um, the Leafs can't really hope that a rookie goaltender is going to be the answer going into the playoffs. I mean,
Some of the fans
that's
seem to think so, and that's
yeah,
that's
they
isn't that one of the problems with Toronto though? Is uh, we talk about the pressure of playing in Toronto, but to be a goalie in Toronto, I think is just that much more pressure.
oh
And after those first 5 periods, like the fans are basically have already anointed this kid as the net. Like, to bring this back to a Hurricanes perspective, they're basically saying like, "Oh, this is our Cam Ward. We're gonna ride this guy deep in the playoff." And it's like it's 2 games.
yeah, it's
Simba down.
two it's 2 games, and it very well may be the case where he catches lightning in a bottle like Cam did, right? But he's not Felix Potvin or Cujo either. like you got to wait and let him be and grow and flourish on his own. And that's an intense pressure, intense spotlight. So how we drop that game to them, uh, frustrating. Just really, really frustrating to watch how that one played out. Um, the Capitals game, you're right. I'm not as worried about that one, in so much as, I mean, let's talk about the game itself. And there was a statement during the game, and no one likes to talk about using the using the cliche that, oh, this feels like playoff hockey in a regular season game. Some people don't like to use that, but that first period was as feisty and belligerent, and it was a true identifier of what type of rivalry these two teams have with each other, because they were going at it. There were some big hits, physical. Like it was crazy. Now it cooled down in the second period. It started to be more just like the regular up and down the ice hockey that we're kind of used to. But it was like it was there were the first period was a harbinger of things to come
It
and the
really
type of games we're
it
going to
was.
expect.
You mentioned Nino misses an open net right to start the game, and I had one of those kind of is this how this is going to end up kind of
Yeah.
feelings. It kind of was, right?
Yep.
Um, the first period, you're right. That's as close to playoff hockey as you're going to see in the regular season generally.
Mm-hmm.
My comment was Tom Wilson. There's a great GIF of Tom Wilson trying to go up and hit Smith and just plant him.
Oh,
Smith kind of
Smith.
sidesteps in a little reverse hit. And my comment was, I think Smith understands that there is a trade deadline coming very soon, and that he needs to elevate. And I thought, especially for that first period, he really did. He was not out of position, but he was throwing the body and getting good
Yeah.
checks on people, which is part of what you want to do. I'm going to fast forward a little bit. Washington gets just a garbage goal, but they don't ask how, they ask how many
Yeah.
on that low angle shot. I mean, you know, that's something Ronta, any goalie in the league probably stops. Like I said earlier, like 1 in 40, 1 out of 50 times you make that, maybe. It's just a lucky break for the Capitals. But it was a chippy enough game that Nino. I'm going to jump right to it.
Yeah.
He gets put into the Washington bench. They take his helmet. He takes offense to that. You know, little slap to the helmet there, which I honestly don't mind. I Nino is not normally a guy who makes bad decisions or who I think takes those kinds of bad penalties. And I'm kind of glad he did. Like, oh, we might see you, in a month, and I'm not here to play. Like, I'm here, I'm here to
Yeah.
win. Like, this is what I'm gonna do. So Nino's gonna be sitting tonight, which is fine by me. I was kind of glad to see him do it. I didn't have a problem with it at all. I think a game suspension was a little much, maybe. Now it was a player on the bench, and that's maybe the why I feel like it was warranted. But when you see the reason Matthews got 2 games for taking all of his weight and all of his power and just crushing a stick across somebody's neck, if
Dolly's
that's
neck. Yeah.
2 games, Nino giving a guy a little love tap to the helmet, it's not like a full swing. I mean, his stick was like 4 inches from the guy's head already. It ain't, I mean, if you've
Yeah.
ever even played stick and puck, you've taken one of those. That ain't a big deal. So inconsistency in the league, I don't like it. I'm not surprised he got a game. I'm okay with that. But for me, the other big story of the game is Seth Jarvis comes back. He's
Oh,
feeling healthy. The kid comes right out of the gate, 5:17 the first, gets his first, and then we're halfway through the second period. I'm sorry, actually, it was 1947 the second period. And then we're on Seth Jarvis Hattie watch for the rest of the game, which
yeah.
didn't come to fruition, but the kid came to play, and I was really happy to see that, having been out for a little injury time, and then maybe having sat a couple games to either make sure he's 100% or just because Rod didn't want to adjust the lineup, that they No,
Yeah.
no ill effects there. Like the kid came to play. Big game from him for me. So 31 hits by the Capitals, 26 for the Canes, and I think about half of those were in the first period, as you said. Very physical game. Over 2 on the power play. I mean, that's kind of your difference maker, all things considered. So, you know, for for having only 20 shots on goal versus the Capitals 40, Ronta didn't have his best game. A couple of just funky kind of breaks. Those things are going to happen.
Yeah.
But across a 7-game series, I still feel good about Hurricanes Capitals
Oh,
because
I do as
because
well.
we played very poorly and took them
The
to
shootout.
the shootout, which I didn't put it in the show notes, but we should talk about the shootout before we wrap up talking about games because oh boy. But I'll let you talk
So
about the game for a bit and then we'll come back to how it wrapped up.
sure, Seth Jarvis, I was so excited for him not only to be back into the game, but to immediately have impact. And the shot, the first goal shot, well, both of his goals were great, but man, that first one where he's cutting across the into the slot and shooting it back against the direction he was going with that type of velocity
It's
and
beaut.
beat him. It was a beautiful snipe. I loved it, and him being in front of the net for that second one, and he almost stuffed it. I mean, he, it was Samsonov almost made the save, like off the pad. It was just didn't quite get enough, but it was good. So look, and set like the as far as the hit and Nino, I was disappointed in the response. And the only reason why I say that is you knew that if you're going to get dumped into the opposing team's bench, you're going to not get out of there very easily. No one's helping you get out. No one's helping you. And you're going to get a shot. You're going to get whatever, right? And that's fine. You drag, and he was trying to drag his stick out, and the one, I can't remember which player it was, still had it kind of under his arm, and he was kind of holding on to it, right? So he's getting angrier as he's trying to pull the stick out, and he finally gets it out. And the first thing he does is he taps that guy on the face, the wrong guy, I might add. The wrong guy who was, it wasn't the,
That made me laugh. I'll be honest.
yeah, well, he hit the wrong guy. It wasn't him. The guy who got it upside the head there, he wasn't the guy holding the stick. And the look on his face, he was kind of stunned. Like, what the hell? I didn't
That
do
wasn't me.
anything.
That was
What?
that guy.
Yeah, it's not me, right? But so it was frustrating. I love it when guys like Trocheck chirp and beak at Letang, causing the penalty that draws the penalty, right? I always like to be on the one end where you're drawing it and not succumbing to the emotion that makes you do something silly that costs you. And this team is better with Nino in the lineup than they are without him. And we're up against another team in the Met that is coming in strong, that you need all hands on deck for. The Rangers are no slouches. Everyone talks about Shesterkin. For me, it's Creeder that you have to worry about. You got to shut him down. Creeder is big, and I mean Adam Fox, and these are all important games, right? The
Right.
the
And
the
Shesterkin,
Rangers
you
just
mentioned the heart earlier. Shesterkin would be my heart vote right
he
now. That
he's
without him, I don't know where the Rangers are, but it ain't third in the Met.
yeah, yeah, he's
His
good.
his goals above expected is Anderson. I think is second, and I think Shesterkin is like 10 goals above Anderson. It's ridiculous
Just
how
miles
good
and
he's playing.
miles and miles. Yeah, I mean it's crazy. So to lose Nino at this juncture, it hurts, and it's maybe a lesson learned. I'm not going to crucify him,
It was like you said, it was a dumb penalty because if you're in the opposing bench, things happen and it's hockey that happens. It
Yeah,
was a dumb penalty. Like I said, I think we're a little bit on different sides of this. Other than he'll learn his lesson, he probably won't do it again, right?
yeah, yeah.
But
That's certainly what you hope for.
the biggest thing I don't like about it is with Martin Nook sidelined, we finally get second line KK, right?
Yes.
So Rod completely revamps the lines, and he changed them, midway through the game, and they weren't great, but seeing like Svech and KK together, I thought was a great look. Especially it gives Marty Nature's somebody to skilled people to really work with
Yeah,
and have opportunities with. And he's somebody I've been down on some the last few weeks, and it's not that he's not a good talent. He's young, he's inexperienced, he needs to get consistent. I
yeah,
keep dangling him out there's trade bait, not because I don't like him, because I think he isn't good, but quite the opposite. I think that he is good and he is going to develop, but would he be better elsewhere? Right. And we can come back to this when we talk trades, but I thought the line shakeup benefited the team because I love Martinook. He's an energy guy, but if he is your top six forward, I looked it up and I'll have to look on Twitter because I was going through, and that second line for the last 4 weeks has produced 7 points, 5 from Trocheck,
yeah,
and a goal each from Natchez and Martinook.
yeah,
That's not enough. If you want to win playoff series, that's not enough from your second line.
yeah. Finding
Unless one of your other lines is clicking at an incredible pace, which they're all doing fine, but they're not clicking at that kind of a pace. And when the
you know,
playoffs come, your first line is going to get the hammer, right? Like, so their scoring is probably going to go down. Somebody has to pick it up. And a point in the last month from Natchez and Martinook is not it.
yeah. We've said this over and over again. It's secondary scoring. Secondary scoring that you need. Everyone expects their top line to be the point producers and stuff, but the really successful teams get points throughout the lineup. Throughout the lineup, everyone's finding a way to chip in here and there and getting the points so that uh and you're right. You're like Martinook. I love him, his effort, his energy. He's put up on those lines, the idea is that he's wreaking havoc on the D with his forecheck and trying to cause turnovers. The Hurricanes are amazing they capitalize on a lot of the turnovers that they're able to produce have great results, like great results. So I understand that. The the problem is he he does how do I put this? He does that no matter what lineup he's on, like no matter what line he's on. So if you can get like a lot of similarly skilled players to work with, you have a better cohesiveness. You can get that chemistry going amongst the lines, and that's going to produce as many goals as having an energy guy out of place thrown onto those other lines. And having what did you think of the AT&T line to start with? It was Aho, Teravainen, and Trocheck, the number one line. What was your take? What did you think?
Um, I thought they played pretty well for the first little bit, especially given the type of high. The hard part for me was, so we have these big lines, switch up. So the ATT line is out there, but now we're playing playoff hockey and not regular season hockey.
Yeah,
So I would like to see if he goes with that line today. I'd like to just take a little more time to evaluate what it looked like,
yeah,
just because right now we're comparing, apples to bananas,
yep,
because we had, I work in IT. Like when you make a change to like a sensitive server, you change one thing at a time so you know how it affects it. And in this game, there were two major changes. The style of hockey for the first period was completely different,
yeah.
and the line change. So I don't know, exactly how I feel just about the line change, other than I thought they did a good job. I mean, I,
There
the
was
first, Go ahead.
There was the shock of having Aho moved out of center, who had not played wing since his first season. And that's really where he was drafted, on the wing. Like, that's where he was drafted out of.
Mhm.
I thought, this is interesting. I wasn't down on it, and I wondered what I was more happy that KK was getting into the center position with the
Same,
move.
same. That was to
Like,
me. To me, the second line mix-up is the more important of the two lines
yeah,
because I mean Aho happened to be hold scoreless for that game, but Teravainen as well, which is unusual for those guys.
very unusual.
But I think part of that was that energy coming out from the Capitals, and it was going to end up being a really tight, hard, physical kind of game.
Mm-hmm.
But I also don't worry about Aho and Teravainen. You can call them, you can put D's in front of both their names and say they're defensemen. If they're on the ice together, I mean,
They
how many times do we
connect.
see them? Those guys know what they're doing. I'm not worried about them. If that
Yeah,
makes
no,
sense. So
I'm
to
not
me,
worried
to me,
about
the
them either.
second line being able to come out and try and get something done was more important to me. And they had opportunities. Like there's no doubt they had opportunities. So
They had some great chances, and there was physicality too. I noticed, especially that second line. Svetch doesn't mind getting physical, big hits, being aggressive and stuff like that. KK laid out Wilson on that one hit. He just hammered him. Um, they played they played they played really well together. It was really, I thought it was impressive, and one of those games where uh, I think you hit the nail on the head. This is an experiment that I'd like to see played out over maybe two, maybe even three games. Really
mhm.
get a look at what you've got there. And now is the time to figure it out. We know that as far as the playoffs go, the Canes are in. And moreover, there's really no one else in the East. Like, the top 8 teams right now are the ones that will be in the playoffs. They're just going to be shifting around in position, right? But they're all going to be in the playoffs. Once the playoff starts, everything, I mean, aside from having home ice advantage, everything's up in the air. And
Mhm.
especially in the NHL, where number 8 teams can go straight through to the Stanley Cup and win it all. We've seen it. So yeah, let's find out what we've got and what the assessment is. And I think part of this had to do with what kind of talent do we have and what kind of mixes can we make in our lines with the players we have right now. And is this going to work, or do we need to bring someone in? Which brings us to the trade
$1 million
deadline.
question. And the fan base I interact with daily, and I don't know how it is with I'm on Twitter a lot. I don't think you are as much, but it seems to be very split to make a
Yeah.
move or not. Um, so some of the big ones, and feel free, Ray, to jump in if there's any specific ones you want to jump into. Giroux to Florida, um,
Oh,
for
it's huge.
for I mean, the Florida's not. Somebody said, "Oh, Florida, they're like Tampa Bay. They're not going to have a first round pick for 2 or 3 years now." I said, "Yeah, but Tampa got 2 cups from that. That's a
Yep.
trade I'm willing to make,
A
right?"
100%.
And Florida already was the highest scoring offense in the league, 254 goals maybe on the year, at like a
You're
plus
crazy.
74 goal differential. I mean, Florida is better than they were. Um, the Bruins, funny enough, a pickup with Lindholm, and I don't, I don't, I guess I
The
don't understand that.
the
The Bruins are in wild card one,
Yeah.
but I don't think they can pick up enough firepower or defensive, prowess to make an honest cup run. Like, this might be, let's get to a second playoff series because you're going to make about $1 million a game once the playoffs hits. So for folks who don't know, because there's no salary cap in the playoffs because there are no salaries in the playoffs, as I
Right.
recall correctly, which means if you can fill that barn, that's all profit for the owner. So getting into a second or third round is a lot of money if you go to a 5 or 6 or 7 game series.
Right.
Um, with the schedule coming up, and the Hurricane schedule was brutal. Um, you
Very
know,
difficult.
New York, Tampa Bay, skip ahead a little bit. Then you have Capitals, Tampa Bay back to back, almost to end the month. Then you get back into April, and then also Colorado. Uh, you know, I mean, there's a lot going on. So
Yeah.
so keep that in mind as I'm going through. So Boston's got better. The Panthers have made a couple of deals to get better. The Avs have gone out. I don't think the Avs splashes are as big as they could be, but it ain't
Not
Monday
as
at
big, but
3
there's
p.m.
lots of
yet.
time left. Yeah.
And so then we start looking at, well, who's left and how does that fit with the Canes? My decision on whether or not the Canes should try and make a move and give up, value to get value, because that's what you're going to have to do.
Yeah.
So right now, to me, it's an overpay. That the Panthers move with Montreal for the first round, first sure, just what an
Yeah.
overpay in my estimation. I mean, not that he won't help their team, but oh my gosh, if I'm Don Waddell, I'm waiting till like 2 o'clock on Monday to make another phone call, because once teams have UFAs that they know are just going to walk if they don't make a deal in an hour, they have two choices. They can say, "Oh, we're just going to hang on to it, whatever," or they can try and get something where they would otherwise get nothing, right? So Don still could get a steal if he's patient. Some of the names are out there: Clutterbuck in New York, going through forwards. Andrew Kopp is one from Winnipeg, he's 27. He's a pending UFA. Um, uh, Last season was his best season: 15 goals, 24 assists. Like, that's a name that's been thrown out there. DeBrusque from the Bruins is out there. I don't think Boston is going to be willing to trade in the East.
No.
Um,
There's guys like Max Domi as well,
yeah,
whose name has been predominantly in a trade, and again, that's within the division. And I mean Columbus. They can't be under the illusion that they're. I mean, they're 13 points out right now. 13 with the
yep.
number of games left. I'm sorry, there's not enough time. They've run out of racetrack. And so it's time to make a move. Is Max Domi a fit? Maybe he is. He would, yeah, he could add something nice to the Hurricanes. But my question to you right now, as you kind of brought it up, have the moves that have already been made, some big names, the the improvements around the division and the conference right now, has that maybe chilled and frozen the Hurricanes to a position where they say, you know what, there's overpayments. We're not interested in overpaying. We like the talent that we have. We are a cup contender as is. Does it freeze them out of trade discussion entirely?
I don't think it does entirely because of the scenario I just gave. Like, if a phone call is made today and it's an overpayment call, I think Waddell's like, I'm not doing it, and I don't blame him. If we don't make a move, we're still a cup contender.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a harder hill to climb,
Yeah.
but we're still in it, right?
Yeah.
But as you approach the deadline, deals get better. It is what it is, because if you can, if I can give you something, Ray, for free, or I can give it to you now and get something back that I know I'm going to lose anyway. It's just nature to say, hey, can I get a pick or a prospect or something for this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Toronto needs a goalie, you know, Kilgren, and
Desperately.
that's the phonetic way. I don't think that's the way it's really pronounced. If they think that that's the answer to their goaltending problems behind Super Magic, that's not going to be it. I don't think. Marc-Andre Fleury is just sitting in black in Chicago, probably praying for a trade. the Hurricanes should be looking for a top 6 winger, and if they can get an upgrade on defense, they should. And the reason for me, it all comes back to Ray is we all know that in a lot of ways, defense and particularly goaltending wins championships.
Yep.
When is the last time the Hurricanes have had a goalie tandem? Well, not even a tandem, a number one goalie who's having a Vezina season like Anderson. That's been a long time because Cam Ward, if for younger Hurricanes fans, was not the starter all year. Martin Gerber was. Cam Ward came in relief at the end of the year and just happened to play stellar at the right time.
Yeah, you have lightning in a bottle.
You have a top 2 in my opinion. The Vezina is either, Freddie's a top 3 guy, right?
Yeah, no question.
To add to that, you have Antti Raanta, who's playing lights out and could be a number 1 goaltender for. If the Hurricanes would give him up, he could fill Toronto's.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's played good enough that he could be a number 1 guy on 20 out of 32 teams.
Yep.
Tomorrow.
Yep.
And those opportunities don't come along very often.
No, they don't.
No,
they don't.
Ask the Buffalo Sabres, who have been in the league for over 50 years, how many cups they have. Because they're still waiting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm picking on them because it's the one that jumps out to me. There are several teams in that position that have never won a cup, and they're not new teams, right? It's not Vegas and Seattle. It's Buffalo. I feel like it's Vancouver. Did Winnipeg ever win a cup? You might know.
Nope.
I feel like they haven't.
Nope.
Like these opportunities are rare. To have the level of goaltending we've seen is the reason I want to make a move. If our goaltending is average, if as good as our goaltending tandem was last year with Ned and with Mrazek and James Reimer.
Yeah.
I if we were in the same spot with those guys, I would not be as I wouldn't have the same desire for a push as we've had, because although they were very good and we had a legit chance, this goaltending duo we have, the way they're playing, is special. We could have them both back next year, and there is zero guarantee that they're going to have these kind of seasons again. You just don't know.
No, you're right.
Right?
You're right. You want to strike while the iron's hot.
Tandem, I feel like you have to. Don Waddell has to look at our goaltending situation and go, if we can score 3 goals a game, we can win a cup.
There's no question.
And I looked it up last. I'm gonna take a second, Ray. So if you want to give me your thoughts, I'm gonna look this up on Twitter because I looked up the numbers last night.
Sure. When I'm looking at this, whether or not we're being frozen out and stuff, it's just with the only reason why I asked was the market would determine what you're going to have to give up. You know what I mean? Like the market, and if there is a lot of overpayments, like the examples that you gave, if and never mind the overpayments that are possible out there, we're still fighting against the cap as well. We've got to do a lot of mathematical gymnastics financially to make this work.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the Hurricanes have ever been this close to being at the cap in the past. I don't recall, especially or never. The cap has become a more relevant issue for teams of late, where it's actually like people, the trades used to come by fast and furious all the time. Everyone, it's funny. We listen to TSN up here, and the trade deadline day was always the most exciting day because people were moving all the time and stuff, and it was great. But the salary cap has kind of chilled that, where things get very, very, very quiet because they can't necessarily make the moves that they want because we got to stay under the cap.
And we have a little less than 1.8 million to spend.
Yeah.
Some people would say KK was our deadline trade. And in some ways I'd say that's true. Especially with him on the second line, I think that's a huge investment and a huge upgrade.
Yeah.
If you can make a 3-team swap So a team can only retain 50% salary. This
Right.
is a little nugget for folks. So if Carolina wants, I don't think he's really available, but Klingberg, right?
Right.
Dallas can hold on to 50% of his salary, but you can have Dallas move him to somebody else who then can also retain 50% of his salary, and then they can move him to Carolina, and Carolina's cap hit is a 25%. That can't; those things can be done. Like there are ways. The
Yeah.
Hurricanes, I looked it up last night. The Hurricanes are 32-2-4 when they score 3 or more goals.
That.
You have a goaltending duo and a Jacob Slavin.
Yeah.
If you can score 3 goals, and the playoffs are a different animal, and I know it can change, but I just feel like if you can score 3 goals a game in the playoffs, where scoring
Yeah.
normally goes down,
Yes.
Anderson and Ronta will take care of the rest,
No question.
right?
No question.
Like that's my push. Now, if it's 3:05 on Monday and we haven't heard anything, I'm okay with that. Like if they're like we want Jarvis and Suzuki and your first, and no, like that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But if a deal comes along that's a little bit of an overpayment, or it's more, I mean, our we've talked before about our depth in Chicago. If if you can move guys who, yes, they might be great talents 5 or 6 years from now for a cup this year, it's worth it.
No
So I'm
question.
not going to be upset either way, but I think there is a way to make a move to make the team better, and I'm pushing for it mostly because our goaltending this year, and we have Jacob Slavin on defense heading that up, and and,
Rock
and the
solid.
compliments around him are great too. But when you look at that, you go, this team can shut down Florida. This team can shut down Tampa Bay. This team can shut down the Avs. That's your major competition,
No question.
right?
It's so.
Anyway, that's my soapbox.
No, you know what? And I'm with you. I think I would like to see a move. And again, the results that we've had in the past tweaked it as well. Was the Carolina Hurricanes in 2006 strong enough um, without adding guys like Doug Waite and Mark Recchi?
Nope.
It's they weren't. You couldn't. They were solid. They were great, but they weren't a cup contender. I don't believe. Like they came up big in that they caught lightning in a bottle, but they had the additions and the veteran leadership that they needed. Guys making contributions. Wade and Recchi were amazing, and
I think Laviolette doesn't get enough credit for and he and Jimmy for understanding that the league was serious about calling penalties and getting rid of the clutch and grab, and
yeah,
being one of the only teams to come out of the gate ready to play that style of hockey. I think
yeah,
I think the administrative staff and coaching staff should get so much more credit than we probably really give for that. But it
yeah.
was
Not
lightning in a
maybe not
bottle.
enough.
You said it. That was I won't say it was a fluke, but they were the right guys at the right time.
Yeah, and the right guys are out there for this hurricane squad right now. Um, which forward to add and what the cost is? We know that Rod, Coach Brindamore, is happy with who he has. He's already said we don't if we don't move anyone, we're a cup contender and we're ready to go. And he'll have them ready to go. They've got the talent. I would just like to see it's when everyone around you is getting better and you stand pat. I think you have to move up with them or you get left behind.
Somebody made a point, and I think there's two ways to look at it. Their point was, if you don't make a move, then the guys in the locker room think that you don't think this is the year. And I don't know that that's true in Rod Brindamore's clubhouse. I think
Mm,
when Rod walks in the locker room and says, we can win with what's in this room, we're not going to make a deal. I think those guys nod their head and go, yes, coach. And I think it's almost the opposite. So
I think it is the opposite. I think if when they don't make a move and they're as strong as they are and they don't make a move, that's not besmirching the effort they're putting in and saying, we're not going to get a cup this year, but we're looking ahead to the future, blah blah blah. We want to keep this on. That's a statement that says we can be cup winners right here. And if it isn't broke, don't fix it. Like that's an injection of confidence more than anything. Saying that you're not making a move or whatever, when you make a move, that's what you're saying. It's that the team that we had wasn't enough. The team that we had wasn't enough. We needed to bring someone else in here. And they have played so well all season long. And that camaraderie that they have, the the bonding amongst this group is strong. Why mess around?
Yeah. And to that point, maybe Ray, maybe the one thing that's left that is as important as the trade deadline, especially if we stand pat, is playoff order. Right?
Yeah,
So it's Atlantic 1 versus wild card 1 or 2, depending on whether the Metro 1 or Atlantic 1 who finishes higher.
right.
So if the playoffs started today, it's Hurricanes Bruins in the first round,
Oof.
and it's Panthers Capitals.
Please, let's have it end like that.
Yes, right. So
because the Hurricanes have completely dominated the Bruins. The Bruins want no part of this Hurricane squad, none. And I don't care who they add to this team. They do not want to face this squad. They don't.
Panthers Capitals can just beat the snot out of each other.
Oh yeah, let that one go to 7 games, every game in overtime, and just like
and then round 2, and then in the other round 1 matchup that would be important here. Really, I mean, one is Rangers Penguins, the other one's Lightning Leafs, and then the winners would be potentially Lightning Panthers. So as important as pickups and trade deadline is how is the bracket going to shake out? Because in a perfect world, I think in a perfect world, what I'm looking at in front of me work. Hurricanes play Bruins, and then they would play winner of Rangers Penguins, which is like much more than the path of Panthers play the Capitals, and then the Lightning Leaf play, and then potentially have Panthers Lightning. So, of the Hurricanes' biggest challenges, 3 of them could potentially play the first 2 rounds, and just 2 of those get knocked out, and then you're left with one of, particularly Panthers Lightning, but also Capitals, and whoever's in the West. But that's huge. If it's Hurricanes Capitals in the first round, totally different matchup, right?
Allow me to do a little cross-pollination of sports that I love, okay?
Please.
And this is huge. It's March Madness. I love college basketball. College basketball is the purest form of the game. March Madness is just glorious. It is 1B to NHL playoffs 1A as far as excitement in determining a champion. In March Madness, where you are seated is so important to how you're going to get to the Final Four and maybe a championship. There are some brackets where the certain team just lands in the right spot, and their potential opponents all the way through, they match up well with everyone. There might be one team in their bracket that it's not as good a matchup, could be more difficult, but the odds of actually meeting them in the end are as difficult as any. You know what I'm saying? Because anyone can beat anyone. We've seen it. Kentucky's gone. You know what I mean? Like it's that sort of thing. So that brings the importance that you're talking about. How we match up and who we end up facing in the playoffs will be as important as the team that we have assembled. And if we've got a strong team assembled, ready to take on, there's some matches that are not as good for Carolina. That's just the way it is. We might not end up facing that until the very end or at all.
That'd be nice.
or at all. So thank you for allowing me that cross pollination. March Madness is so dear to my heart, and I am mixing, mixing topics in the storm cellar, uh, frowned upon. We shouldn't. I mean, we love talking the Hurricanes, but that you just brought something up that struck a chord with me, especially for March Madness, where you're seated and how you go through as important as the team that you have.
There's always an element of luck. I mean, on the Western side of things, in theory, Flames Avalanche would meet the conference championship.
Oof.
And as good as both teams are, wouldn't it be great if they just beat the tar out of each other as well? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So I think we did a lot today. I feel like I've talked a lot today.
we've covered a lot. There's a lot more to cover depending on how the next 24 hours
I was
pan
gonna
out.
say
the next 24 hours might give us a whole another 2 hours of discussion to try to figure out, and we won't go 2 hours.
Yeah,
I'll say this is going to be
Easy.
very interesting. A little bit of pins and needles. Thankfully, we have a Canes game to watch to take us into the present. Instead of looking into the future and worrying about the future, we'll have to deal with the present. That game is going to be tough. Who else do we have this week? As far as we've got the Rangers here Sunday afternoon. Let me quickly take a look here. Then we've got the Lightning on Tuesday at home, and the Dallas Stars on Thursday before we travel once again. So I guess let's make some predictions. We're at 15 now, 15 games straight with points at home. Sorry, we're at 14, not 15. 15 is the record. We're at 14 right now. What's your take? Do we break
They
the record?
should be able to get points in all of these games. Yeah, there's New York is playing pretty well, but they're if Shesterkin is playing all out of his mind, that's a tough win. If he is only very good, you get those points. Tampa Bay is always an enigma for me. I feel like we those games always feel like they can go either way, and that's going back years and years. And then the Dallas Stars coming down. Dallas maybe is the one that I would pick to maybe be the toughest of the three because they are fighting for a wild card spot.
Fighting for a wild card spot,
and that
big and physical.
Is a big thing. Yeah, so they're going to come in. Klingberg. People still think that he's kind of on the market, maybe, or at least his name is still being tossed around. I don't think it is because as long as they have a chance to get in, and they have 2 games on the Preds, I think, and they have 4 games on wild card 2.
Yeah,
like they can make a push. So I think of the 3 teams we're going to face at home this week, that is the most dangerous.
It's hard to argue. Dallas has always played Carolina tough. Has always played Carolina tough.
And if they wear those ugly white space uniforms again, those are hard to look at. That's just like double trouble.
Your uniforms are hurting my eyes.
Yeah, I mean the neon. They have a thing about that, like the neon, and then there's the white spaceman uniforms. Like,
oh man, yikes! So I'll let you make a prediction this afternoon's game. Rangers, Hurricanes. What do you got?
I don't see the Hurricanes losing 4 in a row. So this is going to be the Canes by a couple.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a tight game. Now, what I'm looking at here with the puck drop at 6 Eastern here, it says that expected is not Shesterkin. Expected in that.
There you go.
Not expected him in that. I don't think it matters either way because Creeder is the guy you need to shut down. Guys like Fox are great. They've got a lot of talent in that squad, and I would see I'd like to see maybe a 3-2 victory. You know what I mean? A 3-2 win. I would say 4-2 with the empty netter, but we've struggled with the empty net. So we'll stay with 3-2 and go
That
from
works.
there. And that would bring us into a tie for most point streak at home, making it to 15, just like the cup winning team in 2005, 2006. And I don't know if you're a relatively superstitious individual or I have to tell you, when you see those numbers that match up teams that we had for the cup victory, the Eastern Conference final, the similarities are just too strong to ignore. There's reason to believe that we can go super far with this squad. I like it.
Same.
I like it, and I'd sure like to see them tie it tonight with a victory, especially against a Met opponent who's charging
And who
looking
played
to.
last night. I only saw 2 minutes of the Rangers game last night, and it was the last 2 minutes, and they won the game. I think it was over Tampa Bay in the final 15 seconds.
Yeah, and
So they
the
should be tired.
Lightning.
Capitalize
Yeah,
on that.
yeah, exactly. That's what we need, and be angry. Play angry, guys. Like,
Don't hit
come
people on the
out.
bench though. They don't like that
No,
for some
yeah,
reason.
no slapping of the faces with your sticks, guys. We'll keep that one down. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. They're really, Brad. This is always fun. I always love our times to chat. It's great.
Same.
We have a good time in the storm cellar, and we hope that our listeners enjoy it as well. And a reminder to you out there, if you'd like to join us in the storm cellar, don't hesitate. Hit us up, DM someone on Twitter. I mean, honestly, like, find us.
Yeah.
We'd love
Facebook
to
page,
talk.
Twitter, email,
100%. Drop
stormcellar97 at
us a
Gmail.
line. We want to find out from you why you're a Caniac, no matter where you are in the world. There are many of you out there who are as bright and smart as Brad and I, who love this team to its very core, and distance doesn't matter, right? Join
Not at
us.
all.
Be a part of this show.
Please.
Really, there's nothing else to say, I guess, Brad, other than
Go Canes.
Go Canes.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Ray and I greatly appreciate your support in helping us produce an informative and fun podcast. As always, we'd like to say that we believe hockey is for everyone. Whether you're a Caniac or a bunch of jerks, doesn't matter, as we're just a couple of jerks anyway. We would love to hear your questions, comments, and suggestions. We will do our best to answer anything hockey related. You can reach us via email at stormcellar97@gmail.com. On Twitter, we are at stormcellar97, and on Facebook at facebook.com/stormcellar97.